welcome, everyone. We are sitting here with Amberly Lago, who I had the pleasure to meet, believe it or not, on social media. We met through Instagram. I don't know how many years ago, maybe 5 years ago. Reached out to her because I was like, who is this genuine, authentic voice who is speaking her truth? And I knew there was nobody else doing her social media, that it was her. And I reached out and I said, would you like to be on TEDx Berkeley? And that's how our relationship started. And you graced our stage there and just blew everyone away with your poise and elegance and resilience, which I believe was your theme. So we are so happy to have you here on this summit.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. And can I just say, I tell you this all the time, but I am so grateful for you both. And when you sent me that DM, I was like, there's no way this can be real. Can they actually want me to do a TEDx and it's TEDx Berkeley? And then I was like, yes, here's my email. And then you sent me an email. I was like, oh my goodness, this is really happening. And also, I just want to say something that changed my life is when I had the moment of freak out. Because yes, it was a dream come true to get to go speak at TEDx Berkeley. But I had this moment of like a little bit of imposter syndrome because as the website rolled up, I was the only speaker that didn't have a PhD. And I had called you and I was like, Renee, my husband pointed out, like, I don't have any initials after my name and you go, wait a minute. Are you like concerned because you don't have PhD after? I'm like, well, yeah. And you're like, look, you have a PhD in heart. And that is the reason we want to have you on our stage. And that shifted everything for me. And I just want to tell you that I share that story with so many people because you were able to, like, you believed in me and it helped me believe in myself. And it got my focus where it was supposed to be, like speaking from the heart, like speaking from my experience. And we might not all have PhDs, but we all have a story and experience or hope or inspiration and something that we can share. And so it's really grateful to get to be here and see you again. And I share that story because it means so much. And it was really life-changing for me in every way. The whole experience was one of the best days of my life. So thank you.
Oh, it was wonderful having you. And I think my exact words were, you march back to Johnny and you tell him you have a PhD in love, baby. And it's true, or love, heart, that it's the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so true that the best TED Talks are those that come from the heart. It's really not to do with the titles and the accolades and, how many letters that you have next to your name. So before we get started, because you actually do have an impressive bio, so forget about the letters here, but I'm going to just tell the listeners and viewers a little bit about your background, and then we'll rewind the clock a little bit to your story. So Amberly, for those of you who don't know her, she's a leading expert in the field of resilience, transformation, and health and wellness. She shares her passion for turning tragedies into triumphs at workshops, public events, corporate summits, and schools. And she offers hope and solutions for anyone living in chronic pain. And that's the critical words here is chronic pain because she lives with it every day. And she's been featured on NBC's Today Show, Hallmark Channel, TEDx. There's quite a few accolades and names here, right? Good Morning, La La Land, and also in many magazines as well. She's an international speaker and also the author of an award-winning book called Grit and Grace, which we'll be talking about today. So anyway, I would like to rewind the clock to the pivotal moment. The one thing that was not mentioned in your bio is what led you to do the work that you do today, right? There was a tragedy in your life that turned your life upside down. So do you want to share with viewers a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's interesting when I hear you say, oh, a book and a podcast and TEDx and featured in media. It's kind of like, oh yeah, that's me. Because, 5 years ago, I didn't even own a laptop. I didn't really know what Zoom was or a podcast was for that matter. I pretty much lived on the gym floor. I had a fitness business. I was a trainer for 26 years. Before that, I was a professional dancer. I was doing, infomercials. I was in Health Magazine, Shape Magazine, just for fitness. And I was sponsored by Nike. And so I was like, gosh, life is good. I get to do what I love. I get to be active. And then that all changed in the blink of an eye. I'm coming home from work. I lived in California at the time. And I jumped on my motorcycle and was driving down the road, and I had an SUV shoot out of a parking lot, and they T-boned me. I was thrown about 30 feet. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down and my leg was just crumbled into pieces. And it's crazy because one of the first thoughts I had was, besides, oh, crap, call 911, is I thought, gosh, this can't be good. I'll probably have to train clients on crutches for a while. And little did I know just how drastically my life was going to change. I mean, my femoral artery was severed. Thank goodness I had a guardian angel come and make a tourniquet on my leg right away. He saved my life. I was rushed to the hospital, put in induced coma because my organs and everything they were failing, and I'd lost so much blood. And when I woke up from a coma is when I learned I had a 1% chance of saving my leg. And now, to me, running was my drug of choice. That was what I did when I was happy, when I was anxious, when I was sad. Like, that was the gateway to happiness for me. And so the thought of not having that, not being able to work, I was the main breadwinner of the family, was devastating. But I focused on that 1%. That was my glimmer of hope. And I think the doctors thought I was a little bit crazy when I said, oh, so you mean you're saying there's a chance? And they're looking like, we said there was a 1% chance. And I said, well, then there's still a chance. And we need to find a doctor who's willing to take that chance with me and save my leg. And that took 34 surgeries and months in the hospital, a whole lot of grit, and a lot of, for me, what I call God's grace. A lot of prayer, a lot of support from family and friends, and amazing doctors and nurses. And they piece by piece put my leg back together. And that was really the beginning of the real transformation. I think I like to share that my biggest teacher has actually been pain, because yes, it was hard going through the pain of surgeries, especially 34 surgeries. But I think the hardest thing was when you think you're going to get better. And now there might be some people listening that are like, well, I don't relate to that. I've never been hit by a car, and I don't plan on being hit by a car, but we all, I think, have been hit by something in this past couple of years, whether it is our health, our relationships, our finances. We've been hit by something. And so for me, it was that I thought, well, it's just going to get better. And some of you might be feeling like, well, God, I thought it's going to get better. And then we get hit with another something and another something and another something. And what I have learned from this this nerve disease I was diagnosed with as a result of the accident, I thought it was going to get better. And I was told there was no cure when I was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome. And I had to learn that, yes, I'm diagnosed with an incurable disease. I may never get better. Who knows? Maybe I will. Maybe there will be a miracle and my nerve pain will be cured. But I have learned that you can build upon your joy, that you can still thrive despite setbacks or despite pain, that we all have a choice, and we can either stay stuck or stalled out or in depression or fear, or we can choose to move forward and become unstoppable. Doesn't mean we don't fall. We don't fall flat on our face sometimes. I know I sure do, but it means we get back up. And so, anything I can share today about just how to tap into your resilience, how to get gritty and get through adversity, because there are ways to get through hard times, and there is absolutely a way to keep moving forward no matter what.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well said, right? Because it's a choice. Right. I remember years ago doing a Tony Robbins thing. I've done many of his programs now, but this is early days, right? And I remember when he said, it's a choice in every moment, how you show up, and that transforms every moment of every day.
It sure does. Do you know, I just went to my very first Tony Robbins event.
Yeah.
It was, I had never been, and they had one in Dallas. Y'all, it was amazing. I mean, he was right in front of me. Now I'm like, oh, now I get what all the hype is about. Like, he's impressive online. In person, standing in front of you, I was like, wow,
He's
3 hours. He just, yeah, yeah.
he's also very, very tall. His hands are big,
And he claps. He comes on stage and he claps. And I was exhausted. I called my girlfriend that I went with the next day and I said, I'm not trying to be a doggy downer, but like, I'm really tired today. Or do you feel really tired? She's like, yes, I thought it was just me. Like, it's like an emotional hangover or something from being so pumped up yesterday. It was like, whoosh. It was like a roller coaster, but it was incredible. He's incredible.
his UPW events.
No, this was like not even advertised, and it was hardly anybody there. I had a friend that said, hey, Tony Robbins is coming in town. He's put together this event with these 5 other speakers. Do you want to go? And I'm like, heck yeah, where do I sign up? And we got there and it was so bizarre. Like, I was expecting some huge stadium and it was really intimate. And I think I just got really blessed, really lucky. I don't know how it happened, but it was amazing.
Yeah, well, I think, I think you embody a lot, and again, one of the things I do like about what he says is he never says, I'm an expert at these words. This is just ancient wisdom, which you're sharing the same thing. This is ancient wisdom from any sage mage, right? Is to step into purpose beyond yourself, get out of your pain as hard as it is, and move forward, have that resilience. I know you went through some.
Yeah, I just want to, first of all, I want to welcome you here as well. And when I listen to your story, it just brings back a lot of memories for myself. I'm always in pain. I have neuropathic pain in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's throughout the day, and you just learn how to live with it, control it as much as you possibly can. But through your pain and everything that you've been through, you speak about blessings, you speak about God. What got you through this initial pain? How did it change your faith in who you are as an individual?
Oh, that's such a great question. And actually, that is why my book is called True Grit and Grace, because yes, it does take hard work. It takes a willingness to get up and a decision to get up. But I tell you, I could not get through what I get through on a daily basis. I could not stay sober if I did not have something that was bigger than me that I could kind of give it all to. So it definitely strengthened my faith. And I think that there's a gift in desperation. And here I had survived this horrific accident and all these surgeries, and only to be living in shame and pain. I mean, I didn't like the way, not just the way that I looked, but, because I went from, being in great health and being in magazines and hired because of my physique. And I know that sounds kind of shallow, but that was my whole life. And now all of a sudden I'm deformed. And on top of that, like, my leg just wouldn't work properly. And it gives me all this pain. And so I was trying everything for all these treatments. Like, I was trying anything, I went to 3 different doctors, hoping that I would have a doctor that would give me a different diagnosis of, no, those doctors were wrong. You don't have CRPS. Like, they were wrong. You're going to be fine. And every doctor it was like, you need to take radical action on this. And so I started I went to the 3rd doctor. By the 3rd doctor, he's like, we need to start treatment now. He goes, there's nothing that has really cured it, but we're going to try to treat it. We're going to try to get it in remission. So I was doing crazy stuff. Like I had never done a drug in my life. And all of a sudden I'm doing ketamine infusions. I had a spinal stimulator, spinal block, spinal radio frequency. I was on 73 homeopathic pills a day and 11 prescription medications, and nothing was working. Like nothing was getting written. And you having that nerve pain, I know you understand this. There's like, when you have that nerve pain, it's like, there's something that like often nothing will touch that pain. Like you have to develop the right mindset. You have to have a faith and be able to talk to a higher power, because you literally, like, if you're anything like me, I got to a place where I didn't want to live anymore. I was like, I cannot live like this. So I think that, that's why it's dubbed the suicide disease, which is as horrible as it sounds, because you're in so much pain. And so it was in a place where I had started drinking every day to try to numb out the pain. And I was never a drinker, but I had so much shame, and I was drinking to kind of numb out the shame too. And I thought, wow, this kind of works. It helps kind of dull that pain out. And it worked until it didn't. And it was at that point where I was so at my lowest that I feel like we all have this light within us. And I feel like I barely had a flicker left in me. And I just got on my knees and I prayed, and I was like, I need help. There's got to be a different way. I know that this can't be, this is not what I'm made for. And thankfully, my daughters were my inspiration. I thought I want to set an example of resilience for them as somebody who doesn't give up. My stepmom committed suicide, and I know how much it hurts on the other side of that. And I thought, I don't want to do that to my family. And I feel that, in that prayer, asking God to come and help me has been something that I've connected to every day since. And I think that, pain tends to isolate you, or it did me anyway. And I think isolation can lead to addiction and all sorts of other loneliness and bad habits. And so more than anything, I want people to know that they're not alone in this, that there is, you can ask for help. And if you can get anything out of our time together today, I would encourage you, reach out for help. That's what really saved me at my darkest time, was not just asking God for help, but actually reaching out for help. And then the first time I asked for help, I asked a client of mine, which was very humbling. I asked her, I knew she was in the program, and was in a recovery program, and admitting and being aware that you've got a problem is the first step. Then reaching out for help is like, takes a lot of courage, but it saved my life. And, she was like, I'm going to help you. And then I didn't hear from her. And so I Googled, I was like, well, I'm going to Google it. I'm going to Google how to get help. And I share that because so many people are like, well, I don't have anybody to turn to. I don't know who to ask for help. Nowadays with social media, there are people you can ask for help on social media through a DM, or you can be like me and you can Google, recovery groups, or, reach out to me. I'm here to help people. That's what I'm most passionate about, is seeing people rise up and not get to the level of darkness that I was in. And I like to say my rock foundation, not my rock bottom, because that's where I built upon, everything that I've, kind of learned now and do now. But that was an awfully long answer for your question. So
Yeah,
yes.
great. I think people need to hear that. I think people need to hear that there is hope. And actually, it's interesting that we're talking about this, because it just so happens that I have the page From True Grit and Grace open to the very point where you speak about this. So I'm just going to read this for people. It's very short, but this is exactly what you were just talking about, when you were living a double life by trying to pull it together by day and drinking when it was 5 o'clock somewhere. And then you go on to say, my world became smaller and I was dying inside. I didn't know if I had tremors because I was having withdrawal from the meds or I was dependent on the alcohol, but it scared me enough to know I needed help and I couldn't suck it up one more day. And so that's when you go on and talk about how you Googled, because, you know, we do have people in our lives that might be able to help us.
Yeah.
In the word earlier, shame. There is a sense, you know, whether it's I can't suck up the pain or I'm no longer beautiful enough because I was, you know, a model and whatever, you know, you were in magazines and everybody looked to you for your physique. So suddenly that was gone. And I think, you know, for me to have that courage that you had, that's what made me seek you out. I thought, wow, her leg is mangled. I saw it on Instagram and you were wearing it with pride. You were not trying to hide that leg. I don't know if this is a good segue to move into this idea of perfectionism for women, right? So essentially what you did is you said, you know what, show up exactly how you are. It's not about the physical beauty. It's about the internal beauty and the internal strength. So maybe you could speak to women who are, you know, have gone through that aspect of their lives, because that was brave and bold and courageous to do that. I mean, it was saying, look at me, this is who I am now and love me exactly who I am.
Oh, well, it's first of all, thank you. And when you read that out of the book, I got a little emotional because it took me back to that moment when I had tremors in my first recovery meeting I went to. And I remember sitting on my hands because they were trembling so much and I didn't want people to see my hands. And when you talk about like, you know, showing up as you are, it took a long time to get there. I really just I was embarrassed of the way that I looked. I hated the way that I looked. And I thought, I will never wear shorts again. And I had a doctor tell me, you'll never wear shorts again. And so there, you know, I was like, yeah, I had those thoughts of, you know, is my husband going to love me? Am I going to be hired to ever, you know, do the work that I do again? I felt broken in every way. Like, you know, so broken, yes, broken, you know, financially, we had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses, but then also broken spiritually, mentally, and then emotionally, you know, that feeling of just being broken. And it wasn't until, you know, I think that a lot of us, if we look at what's stopping us from moving forward, or what makes us not go and take the risk or ask for the promotion or write the book or ask that girl on a date or that guy to go out or whatever it is, a lot of it boils down to we don't feel like we're worth it or we're worthy enough or we're good enough. And I know that's how I felt. Like I felt like I wasn't good enough. I'm not, you know, I'm not any of the things. And it was really, I think, important for me because I didn't really believe in myself. What helped me was to have somebody believe in me. And I saw that in a few different places. I saw, thankfully, my husband, I have a husband who loves me, and he loved me, scars and all, from the moment in the hospital, out of the hospital to this day. Sometimes like before this, you know, it's the end of a long day and I was wearing my glasses and I'm pretty grungy. He was like, come here, he's like, I'm like, really? Like, you still love me? You know what I mean? But it was really, like I felt so broken. And I remember walking in the gym and I would go in the gym in my wheelchair. I would go on my crutches. I would go limping. I would just show up and I was determined to get stronger. And I remember, I was on the bike one day and I was on the bike for like an hour and this girl had been riding the stationary bike beside me and all of these people would come up to me throughout that hour and they would all come up and they would tell me what was wrong or their ailment or what was going on or what they heard or whatever. And the girl next to me said, gosh, don't you just get so tired of people like coming up to you and telling you all their problems? And I said, no, actually, if I can help them and offer a solution, it makes me feel good if I can help them. And so I started seeing some value there, that I could help people. I could give them tips. I could inspire them. I could motivate them. That gave me a sense of purpose. But something that really shifted everything for me and helped me really embrace myself and the scars was when I went in to go see my doctor. Now, I had this brilliant idea. Here, I'd had 34 surgeries, and God bless Dr. Wiss for saving my leg. But I was like, you know what? This pain is just too much. And I have the solution. We need to just go ahead and amputate. And I went in and I said, Dr. Wiss, we need to go ahead and amputate. I cannot bear this pain. And he said, well, you've got something serious. We can't amputate. This was probably about a year and a half after my accident. And I was so sick and tired of being in pain. And I was just like, okay, well, if we just amputate, then I'll get a prosthetic. I'll be rid of the pain. And he said, doesn't work like that. This is in your sympathetic nervous system. And if we amputate, it could get worse or it could spread.
Oh,
And I'm so glad.
the first time I'm hearing this. I thought I heard every part of your story, and I didn't know that that was even a consideration for you or something that came up for you. Wow.
Oh, yeah. I was just like, screw this pain. Like, I'm over it, cut my leg off. And thankfully, he knew, and he was like, no, we can't do that. And he took my leg and he put it in his lap. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, he's taking my deformed, ugly leg and putting it on his nice white coat. You know, he didn't put it on the table. He put it in his lap. And I remember going, oh, wow. And then he looked at it like it was his masterpiece. And like, he looked at it so differently. And I remember thinking, wow, if he can look at my leg like that, maybe I can learn to look at it differently too. And I welled up with tears, and I left there, and every day I started to look at it differently. And it took time, but every day I started to be grateful for the way that it had healed, that my leg held me up. And then little by little, I started to look at my scars differently. I started to look at my scars instead of ugly and deformed as, wow, look at how amazing the body is and how it can heal. And everything is how we look at something. And my whole perspective and perception just shifted. And I started to, accept myself a little bit more every day. And before long, it was just like I started to be able to wear shorts again. And then I started to be really proud that I had made it through so many surgeries. And then, I'd have people come up to me and say, hey, I just want you to know, they would whisper in my ear, I've overcome a double mastectomy, and I've always been so ashamed of how I look, but you've given me the courage to accept my scars now. And I thought, wow, that's incredible that this is not about me. This is about empowering other women to show up as you are, and you are loved and you are worthy as you are. And so all it takes sometimes is someone just to believe in you a little bit, just to, especially when we don't believe in ourselves. And so those things have really changed it for me. And then I think that over time, there was one day I was, I still get down on myself sometimes. We just celebrated our anniversary, and I was still trying to prove to myself that I can wear like little strappy heels when really I can't. With an ankle fused, it's not the best thing. And I was sitting down in the closet, and I just took my shoes off, and the thin little spaghetti strap had cut into my cankle and just looked like a sausage. And I looked down and I said, oh my gosh, look at this leg. And my husband goes, yeah. When I look at your leg, I think, wow, what a miracle that leg is.
Yeah.
And again, I'm like, wow, sometimes we need someone to just shift that perspective into us. Like I need my husband to just remind me what a miracle it is. Yes, it looks like a cankle some days. And yes, I don't wear the high heels that I used to do. I don't run the way that I used to, but there's so much more that I can do. And when we focus on what we can do, then we just get to focus on all the blessings in life.
Yeah, that is such a great answer too, because really, accident or not, as we get older, our bodies change, right? And so we have to accept that morphine of whether it's by an accident or just natural causes, that we can't do what we used to do, right? So,
God, so many questions I want to ask you.
you.
After everything that I had gone through, I had this awakening as well, and I became this channeler of these energies. Of one of them is Mary of Magdala. And I have to say that this feminine energy is by far the strongest, the most profound energy that I've ever felt in my life. And it got me through where I needed to go. And when I hear you speaking, I see this Mary of Magdala through you. And I see this because she's all about the divine feminine, the courage and the strength and the I will not back down.
Yes, that's
type of woman.
That's the archetype of her energy. Yeah.
And that is exactly, I get goosebumps feeling it all over me.
Yeah.
I get teary-eyed. Look at me. You're making me cry.
That she is literally a part of this divine plan. And I don't understand it all. But in you, as you move forward and help other women go through the same process and find their divinity, as she says, of femininity again, but in a whole different way.
Yeah.
So I just think, it's just amazing. I
love that.
You embody it.
You certainly embody this.
Yeah, you do.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. I am just so touched by that. Seriously touched by that. So thank you so much.
He's kind of like a Joan of Arc or a female Martin Luther King on steroids. There's just this, resilience, which is what you stand for and what you.
And these are the things that are coming to me as I feel her coming through and just saying, this is who I am, Anthony. I am in this particular being, and I am leading my way through her as she assists others and shows others how to be beautiful again, but in a whole different way. And to show this incredible womanhood and femaleness and
strength
and
courage.
strength.
Yeah. I remember in your TED Talk, you had a whole slide on resilience and how you talked about, which is really the theme that Anthony just brought up. Do you want to talk about how you came to this, this resilience piece of this is what it's about? It's not just getting through pain. It's not having the courage. It's not, it's resilience, right? Which kind of changed how you lived every day, right?
Yes. And you know what? I think that I'm just smiling because you're going to laugh. I don't know if I ever shared this with you so in my TED Talk, I talk about something called, I was going to call it PACE, like the pace in the TED Talk is actually called the pace of pain. And I share something called PACER. And I don't know if I ever shared with you how that came about. But actually how that came about was one night, it was, we were having dinner. I'd finished doing homework with Ruby, my daughter. I've got my leg propped up on the table because it's throbbing. And my husband was like, you really need to pace yourself. And I think the stubbornness in me, I'm like, don't tell me to pace myself. Like I am pacing myself and I'm going to do it, But anyway, I started writing down on a dinner napkin, everything I did throughout the day that enabled me to go to work, to be a mom, to show up for my husband, to do all these incredible things that I get to do. And, I really thought about it, and it's not just what we do physically, it's what we do spiritually, it's what we do emotionally, it's what we do mentally, it's what we do. It's not one thing, it's how we take action in all those areas of our life. And so I thought about, okay, for me, it's mindset. So I came up with PACER, which stands for perspective, acceptance, community, endurance, and rest. And I have to come up with different ways to shift my perspective throughout the day, because from the moment I wake up, I get out of bed and I kind of hobble around like a 120-year-old man, like a cowboy or something, and I have to shift my perspective with gratitude and think, I am so grateful that I can get out of bed. I am so grateful that I'm home, that I have a roof over my head, that I'm not in a hospital anymore, that I can walk. And then I start talking to myself and tell myself, I can walk strong. I mean, even as I'm saying this, I'm like, Amberly, you're slumping over a little bit, sit up taller, like I've learned to talk to myself. But I think gratitude, and I talk about this a lot, gratitude is alchemy, and it really does. It really shifts it was what my medicine was. It really allowed me to focus on all the things that I can do instead of the things that I can't do, and all the things that I actually do have instead of what I don't have, and getting bogged down on, all the things I can't do, and, woe is me, and having a pity party. And acceptance is the next part of Pacer, which I think that it takes not just acceptance, but awareness for where we are, radical acceptance for who we are, what we're doing. And it also really takes accountability. And that was life-changing for me. Like when I looked at my life and thought, there's a lot of addiction going on in the world right now, because there's so much pain going on in the world right now. And when I say addiction, that doesn't necessarily mean drinking or drugs. I'm talking about addiction to social media as a way of numbing out, addiction to shopping, addiction to speed dating, addiction to food. Like there's so much addiction. And if we don't take a good hard look at where we are in our life and what we're doing, then we aren't able to take those action steps to make our life the best that it can be. And I think that we've got a choice. Everything we do is either working towards us or against us. It's either moving us in the right direction or further away. We're either going up or we're slowly going down, and so I think it takes radical acceptance. And for me, it takes accountability. And which leads me to community, which is the next part of Pacer. And community is powerful. I mean, you guys have an incredible community. And we were talking before we hit record, and I'm not surprised at all the amazing things that you're doing. And I was telling you, it's because you are such great people and you're so good to people that people love you. They want to be around you. They want to do what you're doing. And so community is powerful. And I think we need more of that. We need more connection. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to lock arms. We need to know that we're not alone, and be able to lean in on each other and support each other. So I'm big on community. I have a sober squad community. I have a gratitude girls community. I have a God squad community. I have a legendary ladies community. And of course, I have my Unstoppable Life Mastermind community where I empower women. Because I think it takes endurance, and that's the next part of Pacer. And that endurance comes from our passion and our perseverance. It's that grit. It is fueled by, our faith and driven by love. It's sustained with a little stubbornness and revived by resilience. And the last part of Pacer is rest. And that's the part I wanted to leave off, because that was something that I really had a hard time with. But now I've seriously made it a part of my business strategy. And I even wear like a ring that monitors how much deep sleep I'm getting, because it really hit home when a friend of mine told me something, because I love grit. I love what I do. And I literally have to be pulled away from work sometimes because I love it so much. I love being connected with people and connecting them with other people and empowering them and seeing that transformation. And I was getting to where I was driving myself into the ground and I wasn't getting enough rest. And my girlfriend said, you know what, Amberly, your impact is only as strong as you are healthy. And that hit home,
Mhm.
And that's when I got really serious about rest and recovery, setting healthy boundaries, monitoring the type of sleep I was getting. And I'm not always good at it. I'm not always perfect at it. I mean, I was away speaking at this mastermind last week, and I was averaging 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night, but now I'm back home and I'm like, okay, I'm not working 16-hour days. I can be in charge of my day, and I can get more sleep. And it's so important. And so I actually check in with myself, and I'm like, okay, why am I feeling tired? Is it my perspective? Why am I not feeling as resilient? Is something I need to accept? Is it I need to connect with my community? Do I need to tap into my passion so I can have more endurance? Or is it, do I need more rest? And I literally use this at times when not just I'm in pain, but when I've been in fear, when I've been filled with anxiety, to help me move forward so I can keep making the type of impact that I want to make, that I can do all the things that I want to do, so that I can be the kind of mom and wife and friend that I want to be. And so really hope that pacer really helps you if you're, struggling with any challenge or any kind of adversity, which there's a lot of us, a lot going on in the world where I think we are right now.
There is a lot. I'm really glad you brought up the addiction, because I think it's so true that people sort of think about addiction as just drugs. And by the way, there is a lot of that now, but more than ever before, because, coming out of COVID, there's a lot of despair and people have had a lot of setbacks. And also there's this emergence of, let's try out psychedelics. And, so there's this and ayahuasca journeys and all of these things. So, but the addiction to things like social media, I think, because what I heard or what I felt when you said that was, what are we numbing?
Yeah.
We do this, we're numbing.
Trying to check out.
Because we don't want to deal with the emotional connection or being the emotional place to get really deep with somebody, or to face what we call the dark night of the soul.
You're talking the one thing about and pacer, you mentioned rest and how important rest is, especially when you have pain, because the more fatigued you become, the greater the pain increases as well. Because I've been, so I give myself a great deal of rest now and than I ever did before. But there's something to what you're speaking about, that in this spiritualness of what you've become, this icon, this light, you had to do something so important that many people can't do or will not do unless they've been through this. And I want you to speak about it a little bit. It's called surrender. You've surrendered into something bigger than yourself
that you didn't even understand in it. Now I think you understand it.
Because as an athlete, you never really want to surrender.
Yeah, you're so right. You totally get it.
But you did.
Yeah.
How did you do that? How did you surrender as this incredible model and athlete and trainer? How did you do it?
I really, that's such a great question. And I've never been asked that before. I think that I really struggled to surrender. And I think that's what got me into drinking, and because I couldn't figure out how to dull this pain. And I was so dang stubborn and so determined to get back to doing the things that I wanted to do and do it my way and get back to training clients. And I think sometimes we are so focused on fixing the broken or trying to get back to the way things were, that we can't even surrender to what is and all the amazing possibilities that could be. And sometimes I think that if we just kind of let go, and I say this a lot, I remind myself this a lot and tell myself this still, is let go and let God, that I don't have to run the show. Like, yes, it's up to me to willing to get up and do the work, but I can trust that there's something so much bigger than me that is taking care of me. And if I just, do good in the world, and I'm a good person, and I keep my side of the street clean, and I try to help other people, and I'm kind, that I meet the right kind of people. And I think that, like meeting y'all, I mean, how crazy is that, that we actually can, people don't even believe me when I'm like, we met on Instagram. They're like, what? You mean you booked a TEDx Berkeley on Instagram? And I'm like, yeah, that's what happened. And, you probably find this a lot. Like, I meet people that I'm like, oh yeah, we were destined to meet. Like the energy that you have, you start to attract that energy into your life, or I don't know, that's kind of what happens to me anyway. And so I think as far as surrendering is, I still get caught up in my own self-will. I do. I'm human. I'm like, I want to do things. I'm stubborn. And I think it can be a good quality if you don't let it get in, if you get out of your own way. But, there was just the other day, Ruby loves to run. My 14-year-old, she loves to run. She is an athlete. She is just like, I was just like that when I was little. I love to run. I love to be active. And she's like, Mom, come on, can we go for a run? Can we go for a run? And I can run and I can chase after her, but I will pay for it pain-wise. It can flare me up. I'll be in a lot of pain. And it's not running the way that I used to. And I remember looking at my husband and saying, oh, such a shame I can't run with her. Like, I would have loved to have been able to run with her, and started spiraling into that pity party. And he looks at me and goes, get on your bicycle and ride your bike beside her. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah, like I could do that, and it's like, and just like surrendering into what is, like, surrendering into the fact that I had a major problem. Like, I had an addiction, and I thought there is no way somebody like me, who I was never a partier. I was the success-minded person. I was the breadwinner. I was the fitness girl. I was the one who was doing something with my life, that I had an addiction. Like, what? I'm married to a cop, a lieutenant commander. To hide your drinking from somebody like that took skill, like he, and so I had to really surrender to that. And when you do, man, it's freedom. It's like you realize there is so much more in life. And I think it is just kind of getting out of your own way and saying, okay, well, it is what it is. And I use this to help me with everything in life. Like, when something gets tough, or it's a situation I don't like, and it could be stuck in traffic. We were stuck in a parking garage, and I was like, oh my gosh, we are stuck in this parking garage. The ceiling was low. There was a fire truck in front. I'm like, get me out of here. This is terrible. My mind started racing. I'm like, let me surrender to what is. And this is a great time that I can connect in the car with my daughter. Or if you're by yourself, this is a good time I can just meditate. Or this is a good time for me to listen to that podcast that I've been wanting to listen to. There's always something good. There's always a blessing. And I think that, yes, surrendering can be hard, but it doesn't have to be as hard as I made it. I mean, I went out kicking and screaming, but I think that when I think of surrender, I think of freedom.
Yeah. And actually, what you just said makes me think of two things. One is when we are vulnerable, right? And we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, it gives others permission to be vulnerable and to do the same. And so that's what you do when people come up to you and say, oh, I had a double mastectomy. And so it's giving people permission. So that's one thing that came to mind. And the second one is the famous quote by Helen Keller. When we are so busy looking at the closed door in front of us, right, and all the obstacles, we don't see the treasures and the open door that's right in front of our noses.
Again, I just want to make a comment about how you, in a way, don't see it, but we see it, how you bring together your faith and your science together. Again, faith and science, they always work together. And you've brought them together in a way where you said, you know what, I'm going to surrender. I'm going to become something different. I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to have faith in something higher, but I'm still going to use science to get me there as well.
And medicine.
And medicine.
That's what you mean. Science
Medicine,
and medicine.
science.
Yeah.
All of these things just will come together when you surrender and you do it. And you are the perfect example of this. Quintessential example of how you can bring these two essences together in this lifetime.
Well, thank you. You know what? I am fascinated with science. I was always fascinated with science as a kid. And in fact, before I was like, before I decided to be a professional dancer and move to Hollywood from Texas, when I was a little girl, I had a microscope set and I was like, I'm going to be a scientist when I grow up, and I'm like, dancing is so much more fun and you don't have to do all that schooling. Like, yeah, I'll be a dancer.
Yes.
Well, I think, the interesting thing is you do have a great deal of faith, and, whether you call it God or source, in our community, in our spiritual community, there's so many different words for it. And we get people out of traditional faith of Judaism and Catholicism, and then we get atheists, we get agnostic people, we get people who just believe that God is universal consciousness, or some call it the cosmic soup. So I think it's kind of interesting, right? Because there's this sense of this, what are you tapping into when you're tapping into your faith? It's something beyond that you can understand. Universal consciousness of all that is. So, it's partially surrendering into that universal consciousness of God, Godde, right? Feminine.
Yeah.
And it's partially, tapping into what we don't understand and what we don't know, which science is starting to come up with answers for.
Yeah, which is also fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's been, there's so many discussions about, and I wish Johnny was in here listening to this, because I am fascinated with God or a higher power and science. And there's a lot of, I've heard of some people that like, well, you can either believe in science or you can believe in God. And I'm like, well, can't I believe in both? Like in a higher, I don't know, because I am fascinated with science. But there was one thing that I really liked about, so when I got sober, I went into a program, and one of the first things they said in recovery was, do you believe in a higher power? And I said, I do. And they said, okay, all you have to do is just believe in a God of your understanding. And I thought, I like that. They don't get caught up in, religion or anything like that. It's like, come as you are. Like, it makes you feel accepted, and that it comes from a place of love instead of, something else. And so I really liked that. But yeah, I like that you guys have all different types of, friends that have different backgrounds and beliefs. And it's fascinating to me. I love learning about that.
Yeah. Well, our core teachings are love. Really, do you plug into the grid of fear in your life, or do you plug into love? There's only two paths, right? If you're, you think about that balance in your life. You use Pacer, which I think is amazing. And I'm actually going to put that on a grid and take a look at it and see where I'm out of balance there. I love that idea, this balance. But, a lot of times for me, it's like if I'm making a decision or if I feel like I'm kind of out of sorts, I'm like, okay, what am I plugging in here? Is this fear? Is that what is going on? Or is it love? And if I just unplug from fear and plug back into love, then I'm back into grace and gratitude, which is the alchemy of all life. You mentioned something earlier that I think is worth pointing out, because we talked about what we bring into, we didn't talk about the word field, but you said, oh, these people just kind of show up and I don't know where they come from, but suddenly the right people that I need in my life are just there, the book agent or, whatever it is. we kind of call that a field of energy, that we're emitting energy of love and grace, which you do, and that's what mirrors back to you. So when you are showing up of a place of love and gratitude and service, right, that you work so hard to be of service, that's what comes back to you. That's God.
Oh, you know what? I'm just like, thank you for saying that, because so I just got back from, this amazing event, and I'll never forget one of my very first big speaking events. I didn't have a big social media presence. I didn't have, didn't have the verification, didn't have that blue check. I didn't have, and these were speakers that had millions of followers. Like, Mel Robbins was there, Jay Shetty, Brandon Burchard. Like, these are people who've been in the industry for a long, long time. And then there were other amazing people like Ed Milet was there, Randy Garn was there. And I'll never forget, I was so grateful to be there. And I'll never forget, I was in the back of the room, and this guy, Randy Garn, came up to me afterwards, and he looked me in the eye, and he gave me his business card. In fact, I still keep his business card right here as a reminder of his kindness. And I keep it right in my desk right there. And I thought, wow, this man is so good to me. Like, there were a lot of, people that were there, and for him to take the time out and be so nice to me, he was always so kind. And my dream this year, I've never done a vision board or anything like this. This year, for some reason, I wrote in my calendar, I'm big old school. I have this big paper calendar, and I wrote in there, "Go fishing with Randy Garn."
Wow.
And
cool.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself in Utah on, getting to hang out with Randy Garn. And, there was fishing, there was hiking, and I was like, wow, this dream came true. Like, I really want to do this, and it came true. Well, what are the chances of that? So I just finished speaking, and we were in this conference room. He said, Amberly, come out here. And I went out there. He said, Amberly, I really want to help you. And I just started crying. I'm like, why are you so good to me? Why do you want to help me? He said, I don't know. I just do. And so as you were talking, I'm like, man, that had to be God. Like, that has to be God that brought us together. And I mean, he's already helped me from that day. He introduced me to like 3 people. He's amazing. You know what I mean? And so it's just incredible to me when you do work hard, and when you do believe in the power of love, and you try to do good things in the world, that you meet people like that on your journey, like people like you on my journey that I get to meet and connect with. And so, it just makes me so grateful.
So if you think of us as energy beings, right? We are all energy beings. We're all energy. We're emitting energy. We have biofields that can prove it scientifically now. And we are all literally frequencies, and that's how we're known in this grand universe of ours. So when we teach, and some of the stuff that we're learning, which is kind of out there, but some of the new stuff that we're learning is that, say, for example, we are all frequencies that resonate at a certain vibration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about a piano, right? And a piano note, the C syncs up with the other C, right? It kind of resonates together. It feels good together. And that's kind of what happens when we're attracting these people into our lives. So we're a frequency, like an antenna that's just kind of putting it out. We may not even understand it. So when he said to you, well, I don't know, I just want to help you, there's some energetic field that's finding each other to assist each other in this life.
That's a great way to think about that. That makes sense. I love analogies and really kind of visualizing something from a picture. And that's such a great way of explaining it.
Yeah, it's a feeling.
I think whatever you put out into the universe, it's going to come back to you. It's like looking in the mirror. If you put out something very ugly and nasty, I believe that's what will come back to you. But if you can put out the true, authentic self of who you are, the real lightness, the true love that you are as a being, people will be attracted to that. And again, you're a perfect example of that. You emit whatever frequencies there are, but it's all of love
and authenticity. I would
and all,
add.
yes.
Yeah.
And people from all walks of life are attracted to that light, and they will come to you.
Yeah.
And again, perfect. You are an
Mm.
example of that
Yeah.
true light being, God's source energy that emits love without any fear. And then love just comes back to you again.
I think that's when we are most amazed. When you said, "Why are you helping me?" There's always a feeling that we have as humans. What does this person want back from me?
I think for me, it was a place of I didn't feel deserving.
Yeah.
It went down to not worthy enough,
Yeah.
not good enough. When I really think about it, it was coming from a place of this man is so powerful. He runs so many businesses. Why the whole weekend he was especially good to me. And it's almost like I didn't feel as like I was as deserving, although I work hard, and I've, it's been a lot of grit over the years to work and build up my company, my brand. But every once in a while, that little unworthy, limiting belief will rear its ugly head up, and it came up, I think because I didn't have a lot of people, definitely didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth, didn't have a lot of money, worked my butt off to get, and was a single mom for so long and didn't have a lot of help. And so I think it was almost like, oh, wow, somebody actually wants to help me. Like, oh, wow, so I'm grateful, I'm grateful. And I learned to say thank you.
That's beautiful, right? Because that's receiving, that's grace right there, which is in your book, if I recall.
Yes, it is.
I love the word mastermind. Tell us a little bit about mastermind. What is that exactly?
Well, it was life-changing for me as far as my business is concerned. For a long time, I tried to do everything on my own. I didn't really know who to turn to. And I remember the first time I got into a mastermind group is basically a group of like-minded people. Usually, they have similar goals or success dreams or levels. And they're passionate, and you get to get in a group and brainstorm, and you get to be around people who offer suggestions and counsel versus opinion. And what I mean by that is, like, for instance, when I was writing my book, I told a few people that I wanted to write a book, and they're like, oh, you'll never write a book. You're the fitness girl. You don't have a computer, blah, blah, blah. That was their opinion. They had never written a book. So of course they would be like, they've never written a book. How am I going to write a book? But when I went to someone who had already written 74 books, they're like, oh, of course you want to write a book. That's a great idea. This is what you do. You do 1, 2, 3, you got a book. And so when you're in a mastermind, you're with a group of like-minded people that can go, oh yeah, oh, I've done that. I've built that ClickFunnels. Or, oh yes, I've stood on a stage in front of 50,000 people. This is what I did to prepare for it. Or I want to launch a podcast. This is the equipment that you'll need. And so I was inspired after I was in a mastermind. And of course I love having, learning more and getting the tools. And so I got certified to become a mastermind consultant from the Mastermind Association. But I thought, I want to start a mastermind for women. I love you. I love the fellas. I love you. But I think we need more women on stages. I can't tell you how many events that I do where I'm the only female speaker, or I speak on a panel and I'm the only female, speaker on the panel. But also I love women, and I've got strong women in my life, and I love supporting women. I always have. And it was weird growing up because a lot of times, even younger people didn't understand that. I remember, I was in the popular group at school, but I was friends with everybody. And one of the popular girls said, Amberly, you can't go around talking to all those people or you can't be friends with us. And I was like, well, I like all these people and I'm going to talk to whoever I want. And they gave me the cold shoulder for a couple of days and they were like, oh, I guess she's going to talk to all the people. So I guess that she can still be in the cool group, because I was friends with, there's like the band people and the jocks and the nerds and the French club, the drama club, all that. And I liked everybody. I wanted, not that I was friends with everybody, but I thought, why should I not be nice to that person just because they're not in our inner circle? You know what I mean? And so the mastermind I started is to really empower women to share their story, whether that's getting on stages, doing a podcast, starting their YouTube channel, learning how to optimize their Instagram so they can build their influence, make a bigger impact and income. And I just open up my playbook and I share all my tips and tools, and I open up my little black book. And it's so funny because I've got my playbook here and I got my black book here, and I share, what took me years of learning and a lot of mistakes. I think that you've got two ways of learning. You can learn from your failures, or you can learn from other people who are exactly where you are and they've gotten to the other side. And I feel like there's enough for us all to go around, and I want to empower women to do the same. So it's what I'm most passionate about right now. But this is the first time we're kicking it off with a 2-day event here in Dallas. And then I'll be in Southern California in March for a 2-day event that we're doing. And because we meet on Zoom in between, but it's powerful when you get to come together in person.
Wow, that sounds great. Actually, I'm going to have to check it out myself. Really.
I told you she had the Magdalene in
You did. I'm like, yes, that's what I'm all about. How did you know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know. It's funny because, we have something called Magdalene Sisters, which is, It's not a mastermind, but it's really just supporting and empowering other women. So I get it.
This is the first time I'm doing it with 2 in-person events. Last time I did it, we rented a house in Malibu and got together. And so that was fun. And this time I'm like, let's get together for 2 days, because people didn't want to leave. They wanted to spend the night and stay the next day. And so I'm like, okay, we're doing it. We're gonna, and I've got 5 speakers that are flying in from all over the place. So it's a big deal.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, very exciting, actually. And it is, just as a reminder, fellas, for women only.
No worries.
Yeah. My first mastermind, I had guys in too. And then I'm like, I love the guys, and they were awesome. They were incredible. But there was just something in me that I was like, I think this is I need to do this for women. I really
want
to focus.
Dynamic. It definitely, even if it's, because we have one group that's both and one that's women only. And it
changes the energy. And there's something more about it just changes the energy.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it.
It's interesting you're talking about, because we always talk about the feminine rising. And when I was in the gym the other day and I was looking at TV, and I said, oh my God, ESPN is having now a channel only for women athletes. It's all women athletes, all women sports.
Really?
It's amazing. It's just incredible. And you see this, you see the woman, the feminine rising. It's really happening. As Magdalene always talks about it, it's really happening. And again, you are another perfect example of that.
Perfect example of
that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, you moved from, going from pain through your fear into resilience into pacer, now into leadership.
Oh, I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah, empowerment and leadership. I mean, it's really been a journey, right? Because everything morphs and changes.
Yeah.
Done it all. And to become a mastermind as you are and a leader, which you now are, you have to go through all those stages.
Mm. Well, thank you. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So it's what really lights me up, when I get to see these women come together. But, I talked to one of them on Zoom today just to check in, and hadn't seen her in a while. And the transformation in her was unbelievable, because she had this incredible business, very lucrative therapy and coaching business. And now to see her, I'm like, wow, you were like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Like, she's really,
wow,
like, transformed. She's not afraid to step into her power. And so there's something about when you get with another group of women who believe in you, who support you, and who offer tools and show you the way, that it's powerful. You just can time collapse your journey too, and get to point A to point B a lot faster.
If you had some advice to give to women who are listening right now, and I'm sure it applies to all of us, right, around fear, I don't want to forget to bring that up. So fear, if there's fear in whatever place it is, whether it's speaking up to their parents about belief system, whether it's speaking up to their husband because they're either worried that they're going to get beaten or, whatever. I mean, there's different variances of what we have to deal with in our day-to-day lives, or speaking up at the office, right, for fear of losing our job.
Coming from a place where I was sexually abused, and then also an abusive marriage, I think that the first thing that came to mind is action alleviates fear. And what I mean by that is you have to decide to do something. Action for me in a place like that meant that I was going to go get certified and take boxing classes, and certified in, Muay Thai, and get a belt in Krav Maga. I was doing everything I could to get stronger every day. Now that, when I was scared to death in fear, like literally frozen in fear about that TEDx talk, seriously, I was like, you would think I'd be excited. I was like, oh my God, they want me to speak. Are you kidding? I was like, what alleviated the fear was, again, taking action. That was sometimes taking action that meant pacing back and forth in my office and saying the talk out loud or practicing it. Sometimes that meant like getting down and doing push-ups. Other times that meant getting down on my knees and saying, God, you got this, I trust you. Help me. Whatever your prayer may be. There were times in the hospital when I was in fear, and I thought, okay, well, let me focus on what I can control and let go of the rest. And whatever action that might be, whether it's an action step spiritually, mentally, physically, but I think that it's focusing on what you can control, letting go of the rest, and, turn into faith, and knowing that you have a choice. And like you said it so beautifully earlier, that you can choose fear or love, and unplug out of that fear and plug into love. And what helps a lot with that is not doing it alone, like reaching out to somebody. Like for me, I think that doesn't matter what level of success that you're at. Doesn't matter if you're just starting out or you're at the top level, whatever that looks like. You're going to hit, new levels, new devils, and don't do it alone. Ask somebody for help, and I think that I used to be really afraid to ask for help, and I am not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to look stupid. I'm not afraid to admit when I don't know the answer. I'm not afraid to say I'm not an expert in this. I'm just learning. Ask for help. Life is so much more fun when you get to do it together, and it takes fear out of it when you know somebody else is experiencing the same kind of feelings and that you're not alone.
Yeah, that's great advice, and also back to your point, surrender.
Well, thank y'all so much for having me on. I mean, I feel honored to be on, and I can't wait to share this.
Oh, I know. Amazing. It's just been, yeah,
It's been an absolute pleasure
yeah,
again
it has
to
been such
speak
a
with you.
pleasure. Yeah, really
See you
pleasure.
again.
Are any parting words before we sign off?
You know what? I just want to say thank you. I'm always so grateful when I get to talk to you, and thank you for introducing me to your incredible community. I have followed you and all you're doing in your amazing newsletter for a long time. So thank you for this opportunity. And I would say, reach out to me at amberlylago.com. If you want, you can get that Pacer playbook. I will send you the free download if you just text me the word grit, GRIT, to 818-214-7378. You'll get that free download. So you can apply that Pacer into your life. And if you want to know about the mastermind, you can also just shoot me a DM, mastermind, and I'll send you all the details, and jump on a call with you. I jump on a call with everybody who reaches out, and people are like, you jump on a call with it? I'm like, yeah, because it's about the energy. I want to make sure it's good energy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's important, right? I think it's really important. Well, we'll also be posting links on the subsequent pages so people can find out about your work. And we are just so grateful to have had this time with you today.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
We appreciate it.